All right, time to welcome everybody into the inaugural Goodman and Hummel podcast. We did go with Goodman and Hummel, Rob. I'm sorry. On the brand.
This is trash.
Well, listen, until you start to lower your demands money-wise, it's going to be Goodman and Hummel, all right?
What it was, I didn't follow him on Twitter until like 3 nights ago, and he's mad at me. I think that's why.
Dasher said that. All right, so we're on the brand new Field of 68 Media Network. This is the first podcast of many that are coming. National pods. We've got team-specific pods. We've got Eric Devendorf coming up with an interview with, not even an interview, they're conversations with Jim Boeheim. We've got Dan Dickow doing the Gonzaga one, talking to Adam Morrison, some great stories. So make sure you check them all out on the Field of 68 Media Network. But for now, I'm Jeff Goodman. He's Rob Hummel. Or Robbie Hummel. I always, I don't know what to go with. Is it still Robbie?
Whatever you want. It's honestly, the crazy thing was, like, my parents call me Robbie, but it breaks down to where, like, a lot of my friends call me Rob, but people that I don't know, like, well, are more Robbie. It's whatever. I don't care.
Matt Painter goes Rob, I think.
Yeah, right? He does.
Yep. Has he always? Did he never call you Robbie?
He's rarely. Like, maybe when he's talking about me, he said Robbie Hummel. I had other names when I was at Purdue, but
yeah, we'll talk about those on a future pod.
We'll save those though. He's always good for a laugh, Coach Payne.
Anyway, the Goodman and Hummel podcast, we'll have it every single week. We'll bring you the latest info in college hoops. We'll have some hot takes. We'll have insight. We'll bring on guests occasionally. We'll also just have the two of us, Rob, as is the case this week. And we'll talk about whatever's going on in college hoops. And there is a ton to talk about today, which is crazy. We're 5 weeks in from the start, the hopeful start of college basketball season on November 25th. But some news broke Thursday, and it involved Arizona, and it involved Sean Miller, my alma mater. I'll be forthcoming here. My alma mater that has been in the news plenty. I know. Well, listen, it's not like Purdue. We're not squeaky clean.
All right? Not many can be.
That's right. That's right. All those Indiana, well, not all the Indiana schools, but most of the Indiana schools are at least squeaky clean.
I want to ask you this. Are you surprised it's taken this long for Arizona with the NCAA? I mean, we were like almost 3 years removed.
You know where I was? When this whole thing broke, it's so crazy. So my wife and I went, we went 2 months ago, we went to Newport, Rhode Island.
Yep.
And the last time I had been in Newport, Rhode Island was September 26th, 2017. I was there for Celtics training camp. Mm-hmm. I woke up that morning, was ready to go do a SportsCenter hit about Kyrie Irving and how he landed in Boston. Think about that. That's when this whole thing broke. When Kyrie Irving.
He's played there. He's left.
Yes.
I mean, like, that's
long
like
gone.
A lifetime ago with COVID. And I mean, it's amazing to me how slow these investigations go. Especially when you have the FBI. And I know the FBI hasn't necessarily been super helpful to the NCAA, but like, it's amazing to me that it could take 3 years to finally be like, all right, here you go, Arizona, respond to these allegations. Like,
and they're not done.
Needs to be fixed. It really, like, I get you want to be thorough. I get you, but like this is out of control.
Part of the problem was the FBI basically, I think, told them, or maybe didn't tell them, but they wanted to wait till all the federal investigation was done so they could get all the information. They wanted somebody else to make life easier for them. Same thing with journalists, whatever. They don't have the people to do the investigations that are qualified. I've said it for years. They need to hire 10 former FBI agents and pay them all $250,000 a piece. And then maybe they'll scare some coaches. Until then, nobody's scared. Even after all this shit. Still, nobody's really scared.
I think you could probably argue that right now it's back to what it was, maybe worse in some cases. You know, it's incredible because right away people were scared shitless. Yes. You could tell people were terrified. And as we've gotten farther away, we've kind of like crept back into it's the same old story now.
So, all right, to recap it, Athletic broke it, Seth Davis broke it, 5 level 1 violations for Arizona, which is the most significant violation you can get. They are allegations. One of them was a lack of institutional control by the school. One of them was a lack of coaches' control by Sean Miller. Now, no surprise, okay? What happened here was Book Richardson, their assistant, ended up going to jail for 3 months for taking $20,000 in bribes and also allegedly paying $40,000 to a high school coach to get Raleigh Hawkins academically eligible. We don't know if that's confirmed or not. But anyway, Sean Miller's fingerprints never really been on this other than an ESPN report when I was there, which was inaccurate, in my opinion. I felt like it was inaccurate, in which there was a conversation about DeAndre Ayton getting $100,000 involving Sean Miller and Christian Dawkins. We never really heard that conversation. We heard other conversations with Sean Miller on the Christian Dawkins documentary, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But now the big question becomes, what happens? Oklahoma State got a 1-year postseason ban for something similar, probably at a little bit lesser level in terms of the assistant coaches and what he did, Lamont Evans, but ultimately something similar. The difference being Sean Miller here, obviously a much bigger name, and Mike Boynton wasn't really the head. He had just become the head coach.
Yeah, right. He wasn't there. He had nothing to do with it. So you have to think going forward, like you can't fire, or you can't. Sean Miller can't be fired today,
right? Because
right now it's just allegations of what he did. But I would not be surprised if 6 months down the road, when this investigation is done, and I think you need to go into, there's no appeals process because of the way this is going to go down, and you can explain that. But in 6 months, we very well may look at this and say Sean Miller needs to be fired. That's a very good possibility. But we'll see. This is just the first step. This is the allegation,
and that's
now
important.
You got to prove it. Now the NCAA has to prove it, which is going to be easier said than done, I'm sure.
I'm not sure they have to prove it, Rob. That's the thing with the NCAA.
Well, the way Arizona has dug in, the way your people have dug in.
Yeah,
the way the school has been like, they
just feel like they don't have to prove anything. And I talked to the head of this new independent accountability resolution process, IARP. Okay, I talked to her a few months ago, and I asked her one pointed question. I said, okay, because they're trying to make it look like this is completely independent. Now, I've been told they're still being trained by the NCAA. And I said, okay, if this is the case, does this mean you're innocent until proven guilty, as in a court, right? As in a court of law? And she responded with, no, they still look at it pertaining to the NCAA rules. So why is it going to be any different? The only difference, Rob, is that they can't appeal. There's no appeal to this process if you go this route. And Arizona is going to go this route. They've actually, their lawyers have put forward that they want to go this route, which honestly, it's probably no worse.
Why would you ever go this route? If it's the NCAA's people.
Because it's new.
Also, you take yourself out of the appeal process, which seems like it's been a way to actually kind of skate through some of the stuff.
Because the other process sucks too. So you're like, I might as well try the new process, and maybe it's better because nobody's gone through it yet. Remember, it's Memphis, NC State, Kansas, LSU are all going to go this route before Arizona. So Arizona is going to kind of see how hard those schools get hit. But my take is, if Oklahoma State got hit with a 1-year postseason ban, Arizona's getting at least that. All those schools are getting at least that for the most part. And the difference being in this one, they could get more. And also Sean Miller's going to get a suspension here. I mean, he's going to get, I always said, I felt like, I forget when it was, but Gary Parrish, Matt Norlander, Borzello, and I, all on a text thread, I said, let's do it now. What do you think all these schools are going to get? I probably did this 2 years ago. And I think 2 years ago, my guess was Sean Miller would get like a 20-game suspension. But I didn't think they'd get a postseason ban. Now, I completely have changed my tune based on what happened at Oklahoma State. I think they're all going to they have to get a year postseason ban.
Right.
And then what do you do with Sean Miller? What do you do if you're Arizona? Do you fire him? If you get a 1-year postseason ban and he gets a 20-game suspension, Rob, do you make a move and do you just fire him at that point?
I honestly, with the way that Arizona has defended Sean Miller, I don't think they would with that. I think they would let it ride.
Be interesting, boy.
Like if I'm the AD, I think you'd have to do it. But they've gone to bat for Coach Miller every step of the way.
They have. Now it's starting to hurt him recruiting wise. Finally, they got fortunate 2 years ago. They picked up Nico Mannion and Josh Green, and Zeke Nnaji was a little bit less heralded, but they got lucky. This year, if you look at their roster, it's like 7 of the 13 players are international kids, all freshmen. So I think it's started to catch up with them. I think ultimately they either make the move with him, or here's one for you, Rob. Here's one to watch. He's boys with Stan Van Gundy. Very, very close.
You're saying Pete Carroll, just go to the pros.
Beat it out of there. I mean, that's what he should do if he can get on Stan Van's bench.
Pete Carroll did it so right.
Right.
Where it's like, it's coming down at USC, I'm taking the Seahawks job. And maybe
nobody cared.
Sean Miller can't, and it's not like Sean Miller can't coach. I mean, his teams at Xavier were awesome. His teams at Arizona before all this were really good. I mean, he can really coach. Yeah. So it's not like he won't be in demand. And he's got the demeanor for that. There's not a lot
he does, but he doesn't. He's a little high strung.
He is high strung, but he recruited me, and just from being around him a little bit, I really think that the NBA it's so different if you're an assistant, man. Like, your life is awesome. Like, no blame falls on you. All the grunt work goes to like the video guys and like the guys. You basically just like present some information. I honestly believe, Jeff, that now, and I think there are assistants that do a really good job in the NBA, but one of your main roles there is being just a sounding board for the players, and because you understand most of those guys have played or coached at that level. They get what they're going through. You know, you have to kind of be that guy that can kind of help some of these dudes through this. It's not necessarily as much as you'd think. I feel like you have people below you who can do. Like my buddy's a video guy for the Lakers. He gets driven. Now he doesn't. He's learning. I mean, he's trying to move his way up. Yeah. But I really, and now it's paying off. I mean, he's an NBA champ now, you know. But like, I really think that he could flourish in that role. And eventually, you can get hired at the NBA, regardless of what. Look at all the situations. Yes. We've had a ton of guys get hired that have had some issues in college.
Listen, I agree with you in a lot of ways. Like, I think Sean Miller, you're right. He could relax a little bit as an assistant coach. The pressure's not on you, so you don't have to
recruit. Only do basketball. It's honestly, if you like the game and you love to coach, it's perfect.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. Obviously, it's going to be something, as I said, that is still going to take months, even without the appeal. You're still talking about a timeline that probably concludes either right before the Final Four, which Arizona is not going to be in the Final Four, or probably they may not even be in the NCAA tournament this year, to be honest. They got a really good player coming in, a freshman from Lithuania, who's terrific. I have my Lithuanian sources.
You're big there.
For my trip, I'm huge. I'm huge in Lithuania. Yes, huge. I'll at some point we'll go through the whole story of how the spa that they put us up in.
What city were you in again, man? What city was it? What city were you in Lithuania?
It was oh man, you're testing me right now. I can't even remember the name of it.
That much of an impression on you.
We went to Kaunas. We went to a couple good cities.
Yeah,
it was tiny.
We played a game. When I was in Russia, we played a Lithuanian team. It was in our Euro Cup group, and they had a bike track around the court, like a velodrome.
Really?
And I was like, man, I've hit rock bottom.
I mean, this town, Rob, this town had one restaurant, Tango Pizza. That's it. Nothing. There was nothing there.
And then you wonder why some of these dudes that are from the States and play high-level college basketball go overseas and they're like, I can't do this. I have to go to the G League, or I have to, like my kid, I have to retire. And I was lucky. Like, I played in pretty big cities. And
you still hated it.
For guys that play high major college basketball, it is really difficult to transition to Europe.
Yeah.
Because you're used to the gear and shoes you get, your Adidas, your Nike, your Under Armour. My first year in Spain, we were Mercury. Mercury is like a boat on my grandparents' shitty boat up in Minnesota, like the 10 horse. That's Mercury, right? like, or even like, the treatment, the trainers, the team doctors, the facilities. My first year in Spain as well, I had to put the baskets up and take them down every day for practice because we shared the gym with an indoor soccer team. So me and William Buford,
No
take
way.
them down, put them up every day. It's just different. You're not. I think guys that play at the mid-major level and the low major, they're not used to that stuff. That's they're used to stuff like that.
All right, we'll move on. Topic number 2, none other than Greg Marshall in Wichita. It has been October 9th, Rob, was the night that The Athletic and I broke the story about all the allegations involving Greg Marshall, that he punched Shaq Morris in October, Midnight Madness, that day of October of 2015, that he choked an assistant coach, Kyle Lindstedt, the next year, that he made racist statements, Native American kid on the team, Poor Bear Chandler, told him to get back on his horse and made Indian howling noises, body shamed a kid that I'm not going to say his name, and I kept it quiet. But his dad told me he was in his basement for the last 3 years, so emotionally distraught from everything he had gone through playing for Greg Marshall. Shaq Morris and Ty Taylor both told me on the record about the punch. The investigation started more than 2 months ago. Tooth Keeney was the firm they hired. But the problem was, Rob, that none of the kids, none of the players from that year, 2015-16, would talk to him. I was talking to all these players, and they were saying, listen, we don't trust the law firm. We don't know whether they're pro-Marshall. We just didn't get a good feel. So nobody really talked to the investigator until in the last maybe week or so. So that's why this investigation has dragged out. Now, my sources tell me last week, Monday, Tuesday, multiple players finally spoke to the investigators. Right. So, and multiple ones recounted the incident with Shaq Morris. Yeah. So I think something is coming down here soon. It's got to be. I mean, again, we're 2.5 weeks in at this point. The investigators have all the information now on the record. But it's going to be interesting to see listen, he was never suspended. He's still coaching the team.
Still coaching the team, which is so insane. It's so insane. He should be fired. And honestly, to me, just from reading the stuff that the Wichita State kids have said, I know a guy. His name's Sheldon Bailey. He played at Winthrop. Good guy. Like now he's an actor on Hollywood. Really good dude. I've done some.
How do you know him?
Because we filmed something for NBC last November for the Olympics for 3-on-3. And he was one of the guys that played, and we were demonstrating the rules with a guy named Rutledge Wood, who's like a NASCAR guy who does some Olympic stuff. So he's like he's LeBron's body double in like Space Jam 2, and he has been for like 10 years. Like he's really done he's had a really good career in terms of going to Hollywood. But like I read the Athletic article about he was in it and some of the other Winthrop kids. To me, I think Greg Marshall should be banned for life from coaching, like in the NCAA. He should never coach again. And it's because when you have these kids that come to your school, you have a responsibility. Like they're in a way, these kids they can make you so much money. Like you look at it, he's paid $3 million a year. And it's because his teams have won. Now he's a good coach, don't get me wrong, but his players have had to go out and play. And Greg Marshall's not making 3-point shots from the bench. Like, let's be real about that. The players have got to do it. But it's one of those deals where like you have a responsibility to all those kids to give them not only a positive experience, whether you win or lose, but to help set them up for life. Yeah. So when you tell me that there's a kid that for 3 years has been sitting in his basement, emotionally distraught because he was body shamed by his coach, I'm never going to be somebody that says you should like your head coach all the time. Right. There are plenty of times where I left practice and I was like, man, Coach Painter was kind of an asshole today. But I didn't go to Purdue for him to be my friend. Is he my friend today? Yes. Am I glad he's my friend today? Yes. But I wanted him to hold me accountable. I wanted him to make sure that I go from a teenager to an adult. And I want him to make me a better player. So I wanted him to coach me hard, and he did. he coached all of us hard. But there's going to be times, I remember hearing a story, I'm pretty sure it was about Gordon Hayward. I heard this through like the grapevine prior to sports, because Mark Marvel's team represents Gordon, and he represented me. And I want to say David Lee took Gordon out to dinner one night when Gordon was like a rookie. And David Lee's talking to him, because he's a priority guy as well. And after dinner, Mark hit up David Lee and was like, what'd you think? And David Lee goes, man, Mark, that kid is screwed up. He likes his college coach. He likes Brad Stevens. But Brad is Brad is like the nicest dude of all time. But that's like, it's not unusual for guys to be like, man, my college coach, he could be a jerk. But this is so beyond that.
Yeah.
Like, this is so far beyond what should be acceptable that, to me, he should be fired and he should never coach Division I college basketball ever again.
Rob, I talked to like 37 former, current players, coaches, and like 3 defended Greg Marshall. Yeah. Now, again, most off the record. And I tell everybody said, well, nobody went on the record. Yeah, because the guys who played there for 4 years come back and they're revered, right? And they make money there. They do camps, they sign autographs. And as long as Greg Marshall is the coach, yeah, they're scared. I mean, this guy's got power, right? Winning breeds power, which breeds fear. And a lot of these players, they're not putting their names. Fred VanVleet's not going to come out right now and go after Greg Marshall. Ron Baker's not going to do it. Neither is Landry Shamet. None of those guys have come out, period, which I think is telling, Rob. None of them have come out to back Greg Marshall.
Yeah, it's not just that they're saying he did do this. It's them saying he didn't do this.
That's right.
That's what, to me, is if somebody came after Matt Painter and said he was abusive as a coach, man, I would not be able to stand by that. I would.
You go crazy, right?
With all my teammates, we would all come out and say, no, he's not.
There have been about 6
at his maddest. I know what he is like when he is really pissed, and it's not that. Like, it's definitely not that.
Yeah, you've had about a half dozen that predate the Shaq Morris team in 2015-16 that have come out. Torrey Murray, who played in the league, Joe Ragland, Ramon Clemente. There have been a few, but again, it's a small percentage, and not one since 2015, 16 has come out to back him. Now, who has backed him, Rob? Tom Devlin. Tom Devlin is their second biggest booster. Charles Koch, their biggest booster. Tom Devlin used to own Rent-A-Center. He came out and wrote basically an editorial letter to the editor where he basically said, I stand in support of Greg Marshall. And then a guy, Bob Geist, I think that I'm pronouncing it right, from Pizza Hut. He also came out and they wrote something, him and another guy. And again, they're buddies with Marshall. I get it. Right. They're buddies with him. But how can you condone, to me?
You cannot. It's not 1985.
Right.
It's not Bobby Knight at Indiana. That's over with.
You can't condone that shit. Like, to me, again, the guys that I have, people are like, well, you've got it out on Greg Marshall. You've had it out against him. And I'm like, no, you got to understand. Greg Marshall's never done one thing to me. Billy Gillespie never did one thing to me. But you know what? When you hear of these things going on, hell yeah, I'm going to go after him. Yeah. Because
you got to stand up for these kids. Like, because if you're not going to, and other people aren't in the media aren't going to put it out there, he's going to keep doing this. Yeah. Yeah. Like, and again, I've called like 4 Wichita State games. He's been nothing but nice to me when I've been there.
Sure.
But if this is happening, he's got to go.
It, again, I think something will come out this week, but it wouldn't shock me. Listen, it's still money talks. And Tom Devlin, think about this too. Greg Marshall's got a 7-year rolling contract at $3.5 million. And if the lawyer, the general counsel from Wichita State says, after looking at all the investigation, the information from the interviews, if they say, hey, listen, if we fire him, I don't know. We might have to pay him. What do they do? Or we might have to settle and pay him $15 million. What do we do?
Especially if those boosters are saying, I'm pulling my money.
Pulling my money.
Now you're in a tough situation. But I would hope that school would do right by those kids.
You would hope so, but man, I don't know which way it's going to go right now. I do not.
How could you ever what player would go to Wichita State after this?
Here's the one thing I'll say about that, Rob. Here's the one thing people have said that to me. They're like, well, how is he going to be able to recruit? And my deal is Ron Baker was a walk-on. He was a walk-on.
No, there's no question that Greg Marshall gets the most out of these, and is a good coach. Like that's not up for debate. He does a good job, but still, if you want to win at the level that Wichita State has been winning at,
no, you're 100% right.
Last year, you're not just going to. I mean, Ron Baker is a great example.
Yeah, but he's the exception.
He is not the norm of the walk-ons that you get.
That's right. He's an
NBA player, and he plays high-level EuroLeague basketball.
Right.
Like, so if he can keep doing that with walk-ons, then Greg Marshall might be the greatest coach in the history of the planet. So while I do appreciate that example, that might not be what he does with every walk-on that comes to Wichita State.
You know what you'll want to be at if Greg Marshall keeps his job. You will want to be at the Peach Jam next year in July when I attend the Peach Jam and see Greg Marshall, and I sit next to him. Greg Marshall?
It might look like that clip from Canada when Wichita State.
Totally is, or the clip when he punched Shaq Morris.
You better bring your bodyguards. What you better do.
I'm bringing you.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to. You want to see me in Augusta, South Carolina? I want to ask: has anybody said what happened to the practice footage from the Shaq? I mean, I'm sure it's been out of here, but
a player had said to me, one of the players I talked to said that that he told them to destroy the tape. I can't confirm that. I don't know that for certain. How about this one, Rob? There were boosters in there. There were a couple boosters in there. I don't know who they were. CBS was in there filming Men of March. No. So they were in there. Yes. Now they may have turned off the footage by then, because usually when those things happen, I've been in enough of those. They get what they can. They don't usually stay till the very end of practice. A lot of times they'll stay for an hour.
They're shooting. There's not like they're doing like the most basic.
Right.
Yeah.
How about that?
Wow, that is so crazy.
Crazy.
I don't know if I'm surprised though. I love to think about myself in that situation as a player. Your teammate gets punched by your coach, and then he gives some half-ass apology. How? I don't understand, how these kids, and I get it. He's in a position of power. You're 18 to 22.
That's what Shaq told me. Shaq's like, well, what am I going to do? Punch a
No, I'm not saying punch you back. I'm just saying go to the AD. But maybe they're like, hey, the AD and him are tied. It's not going to matter.
I think they probably were at that point. Maybe they still are. I don't know.
Right. I just think it's so crazy that all it took was all right, guys, about what happened yesterday. We moved past it, and then everybody just is like, okay,
right.
That's pretty wild.
So Greg Marshall's still employed. Pat Chambers is not. Pat Chambers, the official word is resigned, Rob. He didn't resign. He was obviously fired, forced out after an internal investigation that started back in July when Rasir Bolton, who's now at Iowa State, said they had a conversation. And within that conversation, Chambers said, I want to loosen the noose around your neck. And obviously that is not something you say. I don't know the last time I've heard the word noose come out of anybody's mouth. And that spurred an internal investigation that's been going on since. And the timing was a little bit strange in this one. But athletic director Sandy Barber told reporters that NCAA matters were not a part of this. But she did admit that more allegations came out through the investigation. Now, according to my sources, part of it was just a lot of people didn't like Pat Chambers, period.
At the
Former
school
coaches,
coaches,
yeah, both coaches, administrators, players. And when you do these investigations, right, if you do them right, now you're talking to 30 or 40 people. And if you get a pattern of verbal abuse or things of that nature, that's enough to cut ties, sever ties with him. The crazy part, Rob, is he had his best year by far of his tenure last year. They were locked to go to the NCAA tournament. They were the great story.
They could have been a second weekend team.
Yeah. Lamar Stevens was a stud.
Yeah, he's a beast. He's a good player. I think the surprising thing to me was that it seemed like that this was all like water under the bridge. Like he apologized. He kind of got reprimanded by the university. Yeah. Rasheer Bolton has moved on to Iowa State. Like clearly, like you said, you should never say that. Like that is, but I always got the feeling from doing their games, the guys in the team last year liked Pat Chambers. I'm surprised. Now I can see where like coaches might be like, man, he has worn me out because he's intense.
Yes.
He's
a little much. Like, he can be a little much.
Yeah, he is bringing the energy at shoot around, at the game. I'm sure their practices are off the chain. Like I can only imagine. But I will say that like from being around Pat, I kind of thought that like the players, like while they thought he was tough, I kind of thought they liked him. I always got the feeling that they liked him. So I'm surprised.
I'm kind of with you. Yeah, I agree with that.
I've never been like at one of their shoot arounds. And I mean, I was sad to see Pat go because he's one of the guys that's left over in the Big Ten from when I played. Yeah. So I always enjoyed talking to him. And I get it. If there's more allegations of this, then yeah, like Penn State's got to do what they have to do. But I was surprised at the timing, like you said. And I just was surprised. I'm surprised to hear you say that because I would not have thought, at least from the player standpoint, that they would have said, you know, that we don't like him or that there was more. But maybe, you know, we're not there.
Rob, so, you wonder
until that comes out, who knows what those allegations are.
You wonder how much the past issues at Penn State contributed to this with like Jerry Sandusky and all that. You wonder if just like
you would think that their school as a whole has a short leash on anything because
exactly.
That's a really good point. But at the same time, compare that to Wichita State, where it seems like winning is good enough. Penn State's finally winning. Yeah. They're finally getting to the NCAA tournament. They win the NIT 3 years ago. Like they've had some pretty good success considering their history, and they've had good players.
They were talking contract with him, Rob. They were he made $1.1 million, which was by far the lowest in the Big Ten.
The lowest paid coach. I would say that Penn State, to me,
toughest job.
Commits the least to basketball in the conference.
Yep.
And when you're committing the least in a league with Michigan State and Indiana and Illinois and all these schools that are really, really good, Ohio State, like good luck. He had done a good job at building the program. He'd gotten guys out of Philly, you know,
he got a longer leash too, Rob. Let's face it.
He did. He made it through some. It's like playing blackjack with like $40 versus $1,000.
Right.
Like you can withstand the lulls when you have $1,000. So he did. He had some bad Penn State teams. Now I will say this: my aunt and uncle live in State College.
Really?
I shouldn't say. I don't know how much they give. My uncle's a professor there. I don't know if they give money to the university, but they have courtside seats like 10 rows off the floor. At any other Big Ten school, that's reserved for somebody who's given like six figures.
They're not giving six figures.
Department. Like it's somebody that's given big time cash.
Yeah, they don't care.
I'm just gonna guess that they're not giving six figures. Maybe they are, but I'm guessing they're not. Like that's.
Do you even think right now, Rob? Do you even think right now they know Pat Chambers was fired after losing Indiana?
Yeah, because my aunt and uncle are pretty clued in, and like my aunt's into the basketball program, so I'm guessing yes. Yeah. But man, when I was playing, Penn State was hard to play at because there was like 15 people there, and we always played them over like Christmas break or like President's Weekend, like where there'd be even less students. So you're in this arena that's really nice, seats like 16,000, and like you can hear the 8 kids behind the TV people screaming the whole time because that's all you can hear in the arena. I mean, I have played there in some abysmal atmospheres.
Next week we'll go through. Maybe we'll do a little homework next week. Will be come up with your top 3 candidates that you would hire to replace Pat Chambers at Penn State. All right, that's your homework for next week.
I think that's fair.
Okay,
I've already got one, but that's fine.
Hold it off till next week.
I will try.
All right, so the big thing, right? We got college hoops starting up November 25th. I'm trying to debate whether I'm going to go to Orlando. Maybe I'm going to go to Mohegan Sun, play some blackjack, also catch some games. Probably not the smartest thing to do to catch COVID, but you know, who knows? I'll have my mask on.
At the Mohegan Sun, they're not going to let you in.
It's funny. So both have said they're going to let selected media in. Now, I don't know if I'll be allowed to go in like downstairs or you'll be upstairs and you can only Zoom interviews afterwards. And if that's the case, I don't think I'll go. Anyway, my point in all this is it took a long time to get these so-called bubbles, and they're not bubbles. First of all, they are not bubbles by any stretch of the imagination. But it took a long time for ESPN and Mohegan Sun to get a core group of teams that is sticking with going to those events. Okay. And now, Rob, they're in danger of falling apart. And the biggest issue right now, I'll try to explain it simply. The biggest issue is that teams, majority of them are in the are in the SEC and Big 12 and SEC teams. If they had a player test positive in the past, those players do not have to test again all season. Okay. So 5 months, 6 months, whatever it needs to be, while your Big 10, ACC, other leagues, including the Mohegan Sun event and Orlando, will go by the CDC guidelines, which are if you test positive, you have to test again after 90 days.
Right.
So these schools, like a Baylor, like a Texas Tech, who are coming to Mohegan Sun in Orlando, are scared to go because they've had positive tests in the past, and they're afraid if they come to Mohegan Sun and somebody tests positive again, they're shut down for 14 days. Can't play again.
Right.
That's the issue right now. What happens?
Here's two things that I think about that. Okay. First of all, I know that there are conferences that have a lot of money. There's conferences that have some money. There's conferences that don't have a lot of money. But to me, the NCAA needed to step in on this and be like, this is the deal.
Yep.
This is what we are doing. Why is it so hard? Why can't we do that? Like, why can the NCAA just not be like, listen, I get that, like, we have a very wide array of conferences in terms of money. But this is what it is. Like, if you want to play, this is what you have to do. And then we wouldn't even have to talk about this. Yeah. Like, so that's my first point. My second point would be, isn't it on these schools? This is a public health crisis. Like, we don't know if you can re-catch the virus because it's only been around for like 7 months, right? Or maybe a little longer than that now. But to me, wouldn't you be doing your players a disservice if you're not just because maybe they'll get it, maybe they'll get really sick.
Yep.
So like, I kind of have an issue with that as well.
No,
because
question.
You are really putting your players out there and saying, we really don't care. Yep. We just want to play and win, and that's all that matters. And I get that that's kind of what this is and what this has been for a long time. But to me, as a former player, that is highly disappointing that they would not, that the coaches and athletic directors and the NCAA would not just be like, look, we don't know if you can recatch it because this is a brand new thing. So you have to retest them after 90 days, even if they've had it. And then we wouldn't even have to talk about this.
And that's part of the problem, right? Some people believe kids, it doesn't matter, right? Like they're going to be fine. So why are we worried about this? Let's play ball. Like I talk to coaches all the time. It's funny. So I started doing, you're going to love this. I started yesterday for the hell of it, texting coaches, 25 guys that I knew well. I'm not going to say who. On the record poll. This is what I texted them. On the record poll. Who are you voting for? Trump or Biden? I wanted to see what the responses would be for the hell of it. So of the 25, you guess, take a guess how many even gave me a vote of the 25. Like 5, or I'll just say it, 5 didn't even get back to me. So 20 of them got back to me with a response. Of those 20, how many do you think actually said on the record, yes, this is who I'm voting for?
Like 2?
5.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
All 5 were Biden.
Oh, really?
All 5. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, do you think I would get one coach to actually admit they're voting for Trump on the record?
No.
Not one.
I'm not surprised to hear that.
Out of 300, if I pulled 357, do you think I'd get one?
No, because I think that with his policies, I think that the kids you're recruiting, how do you look them in the eye and be like, this is what I'm doing?
Be tough. But it's funny. So a lot of the coaches have told me, I can't even say Biden. Like I had one coach tell me, I retweeted something Stan Van Gundy tweeted. I don't know if you follow Stan Van on Twitter.
I see it every once in a while because I follow like the NBA.
He crushes Trump. Crushes him.
Yeah.
So I had one coach of a Power 5 conference say he retweeted something of Stan Van Gundy that was anti-Trump. And the next day he had a big donor call him up blasting him.
Well, that's probably the problem. Like, because if you do that, you've got guys with a lot of money who are Trump guys.
That's right.
That are going to be mad.
Yep.
And if you do the other way, you've got players who are coming from maybe not always the best backgrounds, and they're going to be like, why would I go play for this dude? Like, he doesn't get what I'm going through. So
I guess getting back to my original,
it would be a tough position either way, right? If you're a coach.
So most are just sticking out of it. But when I talk to them, it's interesting the difference of a lot of people. Some will say off the record that they're voting for Trump, and you can tell a lot of times who they are, because a lot of them, again, are like, listen, I want to play basketball. I just want to have basketball. And I think Trump gives us the best chance to have a season. And my take, as you said earlier, is, aren't we in it for the student welfare? At the end of the day, how are you going to feel if somebody, luckily we haven't had anything in college football. We've been really fortunate. Maybe we haven't been fortunate.
All it takes is one dude.
Like maybe you and I are over, maybe we're being overbearing here and worrying too much. I don't know. But I honestly did think by this point, with as many college football games as have been played, I thought we'd be looking at something major that would happen. So thank God we haven't. Sure. And maybe kids.
But wouldn't you rather exercise on the precipice of caution? Because if a kid dies, he's not coming back. That's it.
Yep. And you're going to feel pretty goddamn shitty if you put him out there when he had already tested positive, or he,
when you're in 10 years as a high school senior and you're saying to his parents, I'm going to take care of him and send him into adulthood with a degree and with the building blocks to be successful. And now he's gone.
No question. All right, let's move on to a happier topic. I'm sure we'll talk to. We've talked negative. Listen, we've got through Sean Miller.
No happy topics here in episode 1. It's all
Arizona.
All the worst thing. This is like rookie transition program where they
terrible.
Really bring in the worst speaker, not bad speakers, but the most depressing speakers.
Yeah, that's us. That's us right now. All right.
Walker, and he tells you how he lost $100 million, and Chris Herron how he played while high on drugs in the NBA, and Jason Williams who killed his limo driver. That's the type of speak. This is what this podcast is meant tonight.
Awful. All right, I gave you some homework. I gave you. We were going to do a little like mock draft with the NBA draft November 18th, rapidly approaching. It's been a long time here. I gave you the homework of who would we take for the top 5 picks in the draft? If you are that team, that general manager, who are you taking? So let's start with number 1. Your old team, the Minnesota Timberwolves, are on the clock.
I've come around full circle, and I'm GM now. I'm on the clock. I really struggled with this because
you should struggle with it. If you don't struggle, something's wrong.
No, I know. I ended up going Anthony Edwards because
Jesus.
Who would you take? You got D'Angelo Russell already there, so you're going to take LaMelo Ball and stick them together?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. Well, because I think D'Angelo Russell's more scorer than facilitator. LaMelo is more facilitator.
I am not sold on LaMelo Ball.
I'm not either.
Part of it's his dad. It's like literally like seared into my brain that he is going to screw him up.
He's already screwed him up. He's already screwed him up. But
how could he not? Like, you've witnessed. But I went Anthony Edwards because you're building around Karl Anthony Towns. You're building around D'Angelo Russell. Yes, he's more of a scorer than point, but I'm like, at least you have a wing now. Yo, he came through here in Atlanta, and he tested at P3 where I'm working out.
Oh,
he is so talented. Now, there might be some other stuff, and I've heard it as much as you have. But at the end of the day, he has the highest ceiling because that dude walked in and he looked like a freaking middle linebacker at the University of Georgia.
No question.
That dude is put together.
He is.
And when I was walking out from doing my workout, he was touching like 12.8 on the vert deal. Like that dude,
he's a freak.
He is a freak physically. So because of their personnel, I know you love the Ball family, but I want Anthony Edwards.
I'm going LaMelo.
Your brainwash.
Which is crazy because I said it was
totally
insane 2 years ago. I was like, there's no way this guy goes number one. But honestly, I think he's got a good shot. All right, number 2, Golden State. They've also got a $17 million trade exception, Rob. So they're going to try to get an established player if they can.
Yeah, I could totally see them like drafting somebody and dealing. But if we're not like taking that into account, I was between Denny Avdija from Israel, from Maccabi, and James Wiseman. Because I think Wiseman gives them something that they've never had.
Yep.
And I saw him play. I was there for the game where he was like playing, then not playing, then at court, and then he showed up, and like it was total chaos. It was awesome. But I ended up going Wiseman here just because I'm like, dude, he can protect the rim. You put him in pick and roll with Steph and Clay and those dudes. Oh my God, dude, he's David Robinson body wise.
No question.
He probably won't be like skill wise what he was. So I think he's more of like an Andre Drummond, like from a skill set perspective right now. But man, think about that dude rolling to the rim when you've got Steph coming off. Like that's terrifying. So if they're going to keep the pick, I ended up going with Wiseman because of that.
Me too, for all the reasons you said. And then he gives them a big time rim protector.
Yeah.
And again, run the court.
They never really had that. Like the thing about their centers, like Kayvon Looney and Festus Ezeli, like
they're
fine.
They're
good players,
I guess.
You're talking about a dude that can erase shots.
Yep. Good kid too. Like I think Draymond would be good because Draymond will probably get up in his ass a little bit and get him a little bit tougher. So I like that. All right, Charlotte. They got the number 3 pick. They need everything other than a point guard.
Everything. This is where I went LaMelo, your boy.
Okay.
So
See, that's baffling to me.
You've got Devontae Graham, you've got Terry Rozier. Right. They need a lot of parts. Like you've still got Miles Bridges is there, PJ Washington's there, but I just think you talk about his vision and his passing. He is elite at that. But this dude shoots it across his face, Jeff. He shoots it from left to right. His hands on the side of the ball. Like you've got some mechanical issues there from his jump shot. That it's not one of those deals where he's not making shots, but it looks good. It looks bad, and it's not going in. Like think about his percentages.
Worse than Lonzo. It's worse than Lonzo.
From the field, 25 from 3. Like that's
awful.
That's not. Think about this. He's going to come off pick and roll, and they're going to go under and under and under. They're going to go under at the free throw line. Like that's what they're going to do. These NBA dudes, they're not dumb. Like they're just going to let him shoot. So if he can get that, then he's going to have a chance. But he's got a lot of work to put in on that jumper.
I agree. Listen, I tell everybody, if I have the number 1 pick, and I said it beforehand, I don't want it. I want no part of the number 1 pick.
This is a terrible year to have the number 1 pick.
Terrible year.
Minnesota is the curse
I
of
go Obi Toppin.
It's torching them.
I'm going Obi Toppin at 3. I
really?
think he's – I just think, honestly, I think people are sleeping on him a little bit. He's a great athlete.
Yeah. I think he's the most pro-ready guy.
Totally.
But I think that they don't draft on pro-ready. You draft on the fact of, can this dude end up being a star for us? You know?
But it's the dumbest thing ever when people are like, well, he's 22. But you're only going to have him for 2 contracts at most. These days.
He'll be what, 28 by the time it's done?
You're going to get him in his prime. He's a great athlete.
I've been through this. I was a 23-year-old draftee, and everybody was
26.
like, dude, he played for 9 years in college. It's tough. You get labeled into that, and obviously Obi Toppin is a lot more athletic and a lot more healthy than I ever was. But it's tough to overcome that as a senior.
I just think again he's safer. He's a safer pick than Anthony Edwards. So I still got Anthony Edwards on my board right now.
Yeah,
you get to number 4. So Chicago at 4.
I went with Denny.
Me too.
From Maccabi. I think he is a good fit for them.
Yep.
You're kind of set at the point guard position with Thomas Satoransky and Kobe White. Zach LaVine is your star. The front court's got some pieces with Markkanen, who I think you hope with Jim Boylan now gone, goes back to not being terrible again. And then Wendell Carter. So I think when you look at their need, he fits perfectly. You know, a three that's kind of a point forward that can bring it up. He's down here working out too. You know, he's a talented dude, man. He's all 6'9". He's way taller than I am. But yeah, just the fact that he's played at the EuroLeague level. Like, I think when you've done it there, people don't understand that level of basketball is damn near the NBA.
Really?
Like, you don't have the athletes probably that the NBA does, but the skill level, it's there. Yeah. Like, those teams, like, you look at the Cheskas, the Real Madrids, the Maccabis of the world, like, he's been seeing that since he was 16 years old.
Yeah.
So I think you see why Luka Doncic, and he's a great talent. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be Luka, but Luka, I think people slept on the fact that he was EuroLeague Player of the Year. That is an unbelievable achievement for anyone. If you're 30 and you're EuroLeague Player of the Year, you've done some good things basketball wise. But I think Danny, because of what he brings to the table, he fits perfectly with the Bulls. So I went with him.
Me too. And I think he fits in Billy Donovan's offense too.
Yeah.
5, Cleveland. They need almost everything. I mean, the one thing they probably have are young guards with
guards.
Yeah, with Sexton and Garland.
Sexton, Darius Garland. So I went Obi Toppin. Here.
That's easy
He's
for you.
Available.
Yep.
He played at Dayton. Like, his skill set. I think it's going to be interesting to see because he can be so effective as a pick and pop guy, obviously, because of the way he shoots it, but also rolling to the basket and like short rolling. Like, think about all the ways that he can get you in pick and roll. If you're going to hedge it, he can pick and pop. If you're going to switch it, he can easily, like, he can catch it, back somebody down, play out of the post. He can short roll and handle it and make decisions. Like, there's a lot of good things about what Obi Toppin can do. So I do agree with you, and I wouldn't hate it if Charlotte took him at 3. I don't think that'd be like an egregious pick.
You could play a small 5-man too. You could play small with him at the 5.
Smaller. Right. It's amazing. Even from when I was in the league, my last year was 2014-15. The league was a lot bigger then. Yeah. Like, you had guys like a Jason Thompson playing the 4, Amir Williams was playing the 4. Yeah. Try rebounding at the 4 when you're 6'8", 220, and you got Amir Williams at 6'11", 290 crashing into that. That's a grown man game. And now you've got, like, you know, Draymond playing the 5, and it's Obi Toppin.
You know,
the thing is, we don't have any great low post scorers in the league anymore. All the 5s are like James Wiseman, Andre Drummond, like they're DeAndre Jordan, rim protectors, dunkers.
True.
Who would you say is the best guy in the league at throwing the ball on the block and being like, go to work and get us a basket?
Boy.
It's probably Joel Embiid, but he's trying to face you up and drive you.
Right. He doesn't want it there.
He's not going to, like, Hakeem Olajuwon post move you to death, or Shaq just post up and put you in the rim. That doesn't exist. So because of that, until we get that again, the old answer would have been Zach Randolph. Zebo was a freaking monster on the block.
Yeah.
But now we don't have that. So Obi Toppin can easily play the 5.
There's nobody. I mean, there's honestly, you know who I thought would be that guy who hasn't turned into it is Jahlil Okafor.
Yeah. He's a dinosaur.
Right.
He is a dinosaur in that. You've got to have somebody that's really mobile, that can run up and down, guard, pick and roll, but also get buckets on the block. And so far, we haven't seen that.
So obviously, you know who I took at number 5, right? For Cleveland.
Who?
Not Anthony Edwards.
Jeez.
Still on my board. I'm not
taking. What are you doing to this kid? He's sitting in the green room forever under your draft.
I'm taking Isaac Okoro.
Really?
They need. Who needs defense more than Cleveland?
No,
he's a killer.
He's going to be the best defender in the draft. We talked about a body on Anthony Edwards, like Isaac Okoro is.
And Okoro's going to work. His shot's not going to be great, but I think he can be a 3-and-D guy who's just a great defender who will turn into a shooter because he'll work his ass off. I went between, honestly, Okoro and Onyeka Okongwu, to be honest.
I think he's like one of the dudes. Okongwu is one of the dudes that he's totally flying under the radar. People, even college basketball fans, I feel like they don't know who he is.
That's right. He's at USC. He's stuck out there. They don't win much. You don't watch Pac-12 games. Nobody knows who he is. The crazy part, think about this. He and LaMelo were on the same team at Chino Hills High School, like their freshman year before Dennis Lattimore was the coach. You know who Dennis Lattimore is?
I don't know.
Dennis Lattimore started his career at Arizona. I think he transferred maybe to Notre Dame. He became the coach. Of course, LeVar right away didn't like the way the offense was going to be designed. I don't even think he had played a game, and he already was getting in fights with Lattimore, and that's when he pulled them.
That's when he left to go to, yeah, right. Thank God my dad was normal. Thank God. Oh, my grandpa's calling me. Sorry.
Where are you right now? You got a very nice artwork behind you over there. Is that, did you draw that?
I could have done that thing. I could have. I'm in Atlanta. I'm working out down here for the 3-on-3 stuff for the Olympics. So I'm down here for 2 months. It's a good spot. This P3 place is awesome. Like, it's famous for the one in Santa Barbara. Yeah. A lot of the NBA guys train out of there, but they built like an East Coast hub. So there's a lot of players here. There's a lot of guys here working out.
Why didn't you go to the California one, Rob? Like, the weather. I mean, the weather's probably good in Atlanta now, though, right? It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's been 80 degrees every day.
Really?
Like, I've been shocked. Like, I'm from Chicago, or the Chicagoland area. I live in Chicago now, and I had no idea that into November it's like 60 degrees down here. It's so much better.
Nice. No, it's nice. Trust me, I'm in
Boston.
Chicago, Boston are the same thing.
Sucks. I know. I hate the snow at this point. So there may be a move in my future coming to Atlanta or Florida.
I'm close to. Trust me. When my daughter gets to college in a year and a half, we got a big decision to make where we're going. We ain't staying here. I'll tell you that much.
No, I hear you.
All right. Well, we got the first Goodman and Hummel podcast in the books. Again, make sure you subscribe. It's on the Field of 68 network. You can follow both of us on Twitter. Rob, what's your Twitter handle?
Robbie Hummel. Easy. Just my name.
Yeah. Mine's Goodman Hoops. And again, make sure you pay attention to the Field of 68. We're going to roll out a ton of good content over the next few weeks. Brand new pods coming to you. Eric Devendorf, again, Syracuse, Dan Dickow, interviewing Adam Morrison. We've got everything that you're going to want coming here on the network. And again, Rob and I will be back next week, and hopefully it'll be a little bit lighter version.
Get some cheery news out here in college hoops.
Yeah, we'll get it going. We need some games. Yeah, we do need some games.
Seriously.
All right, Rob, be safe down there, and we'll talk next week.
Cool. Sounds good. See you, Jeff.
Later, man.